Later back at his apartment, Min strolls inside and spots his brother glued to his phone, doom scrolling through TikTok like a professional, when Won immediately clocks him and jumps straight into grilling him about the so-called date. Min is just as surprised and wastes no time shutting that down, insisting there's absolutely nothing romantic going on with the girl. Hoping to steer the conversation somewhere else, he asks if Won's eaten yet, and his brother beams while proudly announcing he demolished some juicy cup ramen. Min tries pushing Won to branch out and finally try something different for once, but his brother stays fiercely loyal to his favorite food, unlike his traitorous ex, and says it's something he's actually been craving for a while now. That ends up stirring up memories of the broke days they both had to tough out before luck finally decided to throw them a bone. As Min sits there thinking about it, he realizes it's been a good while since he last checked on his Bitcoins. Remembering the market might crash any minute, he figures he should just cash them out and use the money to finally grab a driving permit. Later, Min sits down for his online driving test, letting out a long, bored sigh as the whole routine feels painfully familiar after taking it countless times across his past lives. He breezes through the questions without breaking a sweat and wraps everything up in record time before standing up like he's ready to dip. The supervisor watches him go, probably assuming he's just another newbie giving up halfway, but his face freezes completely when the system suddenly announces Min's nearly perfect score. Thanks to everything he's already got burned into his brain, Min ends up landing his license in under 4 days without breaking a sweat. This ends up throwing our boy into a tiny crisis since, after thinking back on all his regressions, he figures he should honestly be some bald old geezer by now. The second he gets his shiny new license, Min doesn't waste even a second before locking his sights on his dream car, a limited edition Lambo so wild it could make even Tate die of jealousy. He asks the salesman how long it'll take to get one, and the man tells him it'll be about a month. Not missing a single beat, Min slaps down the order, and the salesman, looking like he just won the lottery, immediately starts showering him with congratulations. 2 weeks roll by and the big moment finally arrives for Min to dump all his Bitcoin and dodge the crash like a boss. One catches sight of his brother's weird little grin and asks if he somehow just hit the jackpot. Staying cool as ever, Min casually says he sold off all his crypto for a mind-blowing 300 billion, nearly making Won spit his coffee everywhere in pure shock. He just stares, totally baffled at how their tiny savings skyrocketed to the moon. But for Min, it's honestly just another regular Tuesday. One still remembers warning his brother not to throw all his money into one basket, and honestly can't believe how things actually turned out. Min says he didn't expect it either, and just ended up hitting a personal record by sheer luck. His innocent little brother asks if he's planning to withdraw everything, finally relaxing a bit when Min casually says yes. That tiny bit of peace doesn't last long though, and Won nearly drops his mug when our hero casually mentions he's thinking about dabbling in stocks next. One immediately starts getting worked up again, clearly doubting whether his brother even knows the first thing about stocks, but Min just tells him to chill and trust the old man in his dream card he's pulling with full confidence again. The gullible younger brother actually falls for it, and asks if there's a specific stock Min has in mind, slowly calming himself down while deciding to place his faith in him this one time. While our protagonist totally gets why Won's freaking out, he also knows those past lives weren't just for show and feels fully confident about the company he's getting ready to bet on. That company happens to be Chunma Consulting Stocks, which already handles a ridiculous total of 900 billion won. Even though it might look like an average company at the moment, Min knows it's going to blow up in a big way once the fourth round starts kicking in, so he doesn't hesitate at all when it comes to throwing everything he's got into it. By pulling this move, he's aiming to grab a big enough chunk of shares to crash those shareholder meetings in the future, and way more importantly, stack up a mountain of money and power while he's at it. Our boy casually yeets his 280 billion straight into those stocks, while his poor brother stands there praying to every god he knows that they don't end up homeless again. With all that sorted out, Min can finally shift his focus back to the item he needs from the Quest store. Later that night, waiting in bed for midnight to hit, he decides to hop onto the Quest store and browse for some items and skills. Even though most of the stuff available looks painfully ordinary, there are still ways to unlock the real treasures, like keeping an eye on the daily item that pops up in the store. To the average player, the plan might sound dumb, but our boy has lived over a decade and already memorized exactly what the store sells each day, so he slams the confirm button like it owes him money. Out pops today's item, a skullbone necklace that boosts attack speed yet sells for a price way cheaper than its real worth. Min isn't finished just yet though, since he pulls out that dusty discount coupon he got earlier and buys the thing at half price without blinking. Our hero checks his remaining balance and instantly straightens up, not expecting to find nearly 14,000 gold still sitting pretty in his account. He flips into full detective mode, thinking hard about whether to buy armor now or save another 6,000 gold to unlock a completely broken skill later. In the end, he decides the skill is the smarter move. Luck backs him up too, since the next round is nothing but monster farming, so collecting the rest should be easy. Time flies by fast, and when March 1st arrives, every player gets dumped back into the alternate world, still completely clueless about what the divine beings plan to throw at them next. One by one, all the players pop into the dimension and immediately start analyzing the new place they have landed in. The area looks like a village, or rather the ruins of one, since there isn't a single living soul around other than themselves. As they walk around, they notice the village is surrounded by walls like a fort with gates stretching out in all directions. A giant crystal in the center lights up the whole place, leaving the players even more confused about what their mission is supposed to be this round. Leaning against a wall, Min casually observes everything from a distance, not the least bit surprised that the players are already agitated in this weird new environment. On the other H, and Joe actually seems calm at first, but that peace doesn't last once the players start whispering about him. They swap shady rumors about him being a brutal gang boss, and gossip about how he tried to force them to vote for him, even though most of them wanted Black Scythe as their leader, which clearly gets the gangsters' blood boiling. One of the more sensible players tries to calm everyone down by reminding them Joe could just use his power to shut them up, but none of them look scared since they know he can only use it 10 times. Joe finally snaps and starts throwing around insults like confetti, but all it does is add even more fuel to the fire as they pile on and start trash-talking his lousy attitude. Joe shouts at the crowd, trying to sniff out the nosy player who started the smack talk, but nobody steps forward, which just makes him even angrier. A sudden thud snaps him out of his rage as one of the players bows his head and greets the gangster like he's meeting a celebrity. Joe stares at him like he's grown a second head and demands to know who the hell he is. Ryu Min happily calls Joe by his full government name and claims he's here to make proper introductions. The thug immediately grills him about whether he's with a gang, but Ryu Min denies it and says he's hoping to be part of Joe's crew one day. Spinning the rusty cog in his skull, Joe's brain turns to mush as he struggles to believe the idiotic player standing in front of him actually wants to join a gang. Ryu Min blurts out that Joe is his crush and says he would love to join his gang. The gangster tries to understand the situation better, but Ryu Min suddenly drops to his knees and declares Joe to be his senpai for life. Joe cracks a twisted smile, not expecting anyone to top his level of crazy, but he finds himself liking how bold Ryu Min is. Joe orders the wannabe thug to get up and spit out exactly what he wants, since no sane person would ever suck up to him after what happened last round. Ryu Min pumps his chest proudly and declares that the past holds no importance for him and that he truly honors Joe for the king he is. He says he doesn't care what other people yap about and that becoming senpai's lackey is his dream in life. Joe easily takes the bait and agrees to make him an aura-farming gangster that would put Pablo Escobar to shame. Relieved, Ryu Min nearly breaks his back with another bow and thanks Joe for his overwhelming generosity. The rest of the players are left shocked seeing Ryu Min cozying up to such a brutal person and thinking of him as completely insane, while Min's side eyes the situation, satisfied that history is repeating itself again. In a sudden burst of light, the angel appears floating above the players and calls out to address them. The angel acts surprised as she casually mentions the decreased number of players compared to the end of the last round, which leaves the players confused as they try to make sense of her words. However, the system notification captures their attention instead, as they realize many players are missing. The angel then muses that since it is unlikely for them to attack each other this early on, it must mean they fought in real life instead. One of the players shouts out for everyone to look at the number of winners for this round, causing chaos to erupt as the system states that only a quarter of the players will progress, and one even dares to call this an error. The angel bursts into laughter at the hilarious response and reassures everyone that there is no such mistake made by her. She reminds them of the rules that the number of players will be halved each round as the players look dumbfounded. Since no one was hurt in the previous round, the angel considers it only fair that 3/4 of the players will be turned to dust. The crowd tries to protest, but the angel casually cuts them off and tells them to just do their best. The angel then explains that in the third round, monsters will spawn at all 4 gates and will target the large shiny stone in the middle of the village in 5 waves of attack. The angel emphasizes that cooperation is a must as they need to protect the artifact for 3 hours, otherwise the consequences will be severe. However, it does not matter if they fail to save the stone, as their ranking is based on the total number of monsters they slay. She keeps on chatting that even though there will be huge hordes of monsters, they will be nerfed down so the players have a fighting chance, but their drops will be nerfed as well. Joe is practically itching with excitement since he gets to destroy monsters to his heart's content, and to sweeten it further, he also has the command role. Almost like hearing his thoughts, the angel claps her hand and addresses the zone representative that Joe can use his authority in this round. At the same time, she satisfies all the curious glances thrown her way as she drops the bomb on what actually happens when the zone representative gets wiped out. An eerie smile slowly stretches across her face as she explains that if the leader ends up dying from a monster attack, the authority itself gets erased from existence. But if a player is the one who kills him, then that player takes his place as the new representative and also gains full command powers. Everyone immediately starts eyeballing Joe like he is the last cookie left in a jar, while the angel casually announces that the monsters will arrive in 10 minutes. Flashing a nasty grin, she throws in a suggestion for the players to be good buddies with each other before she vanishes into thin air. Understandably, Joe cannot help but curse at the sky with his foul mouth, but he quickly shuts up the moment he hears the unmistakable sound of blades being drawn around him. The gangster immediately summons his own dagger and dares the chumps to come at him if they think they can. The players start taunting him and get ready to pounce, completely blinded by the greedy dream of snatching his power. However, Min seems to have other ideas as he casually steps out from the crowd with not a single player daring to move a muscle. Joe demands to know what Black Scythe thinks he is doing, but our boy calmly reassures him that he is just there to have a little chat. Mr. Documentary tries his best to act like he is not rattled by our hero and demands to know what he is planning, but Min smoothly cuts him off as he casually brings up a trade offer. Spotting that Joe has gotten himself stuck between a rock and a hard place, Min swings his scythe lazily over his shoulder and throws out an offer to protect the gangster. Joe can only stare at him in confusion while Min calmly repeats his offer to protect him from the other players, and the crowd looks on in shock and disbelief at the idea they might have to throw hands with Black Scythe. The other players immediately start whispering among themselves about their survival chances, while Joe struggles to believe that our boy's name carries that much weight and actually considers taking the deal. Using his non-existent brain for once, he realizes there has to be a catch and decides to confront Min about it. Our protagonist casually lays it out that in exchange, Joe will have to obey his every single command without a shred of complaint. Joe stands there baffled at how even though he is the zone representative, Min is basically asking him to hand over the reins and play the role of a good little puppy. The gangster questions the reason behind such a ridiculous demand, but our boy stays completely silent. Joe tries to dig deeper, but Min refuses to budge even an inch and simply tells him to submit to him already. The gangster's anger starts to boil as he seriously considers rejecting the offer, but the fear of getting folded like laundry by our boy's deadly scythe creeps into his mind. Min snaps him out of it and reminds him to make a decision quickly since the other players are getting tired of waiting. A single bead of sweat rolls down Joe's face as he finally spits out his answer and rejects the generous offer like a complete idiot. But our hero already figured that Joe's gigantic ego would never in a million years let him accept such a deal. All the others waste no time in mocking his terrible decision-making skills and how he is way too proud to fall in second behind someone else. The challengers raise their weapons, eager to teach the gangster a painful lesson, while Min feels pleased that everything stays exactly the same and decides to stir the pot just a little more. Locking eyes with him, Min coolly announces that since Joe clearly does not want his help, the others are free to do whatever they like with him. Our hero turns around and walks away as he coldly declares that the gangster's survival will have absolutely no meaning, while the other players eagerly start closing in with their weapons drawn, hungry to tear Joe apart. Mr. Documentary grips his dagger tightly and starts to seriously wonder if he made the right call. Before things have the chance to get truly ugly, Joe is unexpectedly saved by the system, which alerts them that the stampede is about to kick off, sending everyone scrambling to battle positions around the crystal. Joe realizes he cannot afford to fight while a bunch of players are thirsting for his blood, and anyway, this is not supposed to be a team mission in the first place. The gangster catches sight of Min walking toward a secluded area and, feeling curious, decides to follow him. He quietly stalks our boy and wonders whether he plans to take on the incoming monsters all by himself, but the brief silence does not last long as loud, bloodthirsty growls suddenly fill the air and send a wave of dread through the players. The system casually drops the bomb that they will be facing off against 10,000 goblins, chilling everyone right down to their bones. The gangster immediately bolts for high ground but cannot help feeling confused at how Black Scythe remains so ridiculously calm. Taking a closer look at the situation, Joe notices that even though the gates only have a small opening, a scary number of goblins can still squeeze through together, which would make even an experienced player sweat bullets. Watching from a balcony, Joe smugly convinces himself that Min must be full of hot air and will probably end up running away like a coward. Bloodthirsty goblins soon start pouring through the gates, but our boy stands ready as he slices through them like butter and tears down goblin after goblin without missing a beat. Not giving them a break, Min rushes in, zapping past the goblins as he turns them to mincemeat. Joe watches the scene unfold in disbelief, struggling to wrap his head around how overpowered our boy is. The goblins try to surround him to gain an advantage but fail miserably as they cannot dodge his deadly area-wide attacks, while Joe wonders if this strength can be unlocked after leveling up. Getting frustrated, the gangster decides to stop hiding like a wuss and start killing monsters to level up. Since all the players are occupied with the monsters, Joe decides to take advantage of the chaos and farm some free points. The participants are busy protecting the giant artifact as they take down goblins one after another, while Joe sneaks in and joins the fight. The thug spots some goblins, locks in immediately, and starts destroying the weak monsters. Joe smiles with a nasty expression, able to anticipate the incoming monster attacks with his rune, but his moment of confidence is short-lived as an arrow shoots past his face and nicks his ear. The gangster immediately loses it as he tries to find the source, but he cannot seem to spot any archer goblins. The thug realizes he is being targeted by a player, and his anger grows sky-high as he relishes the thought of squeezing the life out of that coward. But before Joe can take another step, he feels something stab into the side of his body as one of the players slides a weapon into his gut. The NPC starts to celebrate, but the musclehead begins to pull the spear out like a Chad, much to the player's surprise, and starts to shoot out insults. The player panics, but it is too late as Joe returns the favor with his own blade. As he starts going ham with his tiny sword, another arrow flies past his face. Spotting the cowardly archer, Joe wastes no time and takes aim with the spear he pulled out. The player tries to shoot again, but a quick spear to the head stops him in his tracks. Joe holds his injured side, pissed off at his carelessness and cursed title. Mr. Documentary is desperate to get rid of his title and regrets rejecting the deal Min offered before, but decides a real man like him values his pride more and serves nobody like a little dog. So he scans his surroundings, desperate for a way to escape the relentless players and hunt safely. An opportunity presents itself in the form of the third strongest player as he spots Blackbeard Dragon destroying the goblins. A nasty smile spreads across Joe's face as he approaches Black Dragon, activates his authority powers on him, and orders him to be Mr. President's personal bodyguard. Meanwhile, Min is gobbling up experience points as he continues to eradicate the goblins without even breaking a sweat. Our protagonist opens his inventory and is pleasantly surprised to find he has already collected his desired amount. The grind doesn't stop there, and he decides to gather another 2,000 gold just for fun. Min has a big brain moment as he realizes he can buy 2 skills and obtain the Rune of Thoughts earlier than expected. The goblins try to sneak up on Black Scythe while he is distracted, but they cannot catch our boy lacking as he makes short work of them with a quick swipe of his scythe. The other goblins hesitate to step further after watching their friends get massacred, but Min is not done yet as he taunts the monsters for being weak and rushes towards them instead. After that, a beam of light suddenly illuminates the night sky, distracting the players from their ongoing fights. One by one, the goblins start to glow and slowly vanish into thin air. The remaining players begin celebrating their win in the first wave, although they are completely wasted to continue fighting. Min realizes that nearly 1,000 players died and rethinks how dangerous weakened goblins actually are. Our boy searches among the survivors, spotting Joe, and is surprised that he managed to survive, but he might not be so lucky in the next round. The gangster is pissed off that instead of fighting the monsters, the players decided to target him instead, as one of them tries to sneak up on him. The NPC lunges forward to attack but is struck down by the brainwashed Black Dragon and young Min. Joe is relieved he managed to survive because of these 2 pawns protecting his sorry self. Young Min expresses his worries over his senior's wound, but Joe is more intrigued by the fact that he did not even have to use his mind control powers over this fool. He groans in pain as he clutches his wound tightly in a desperate attempt to stop the bleeding and wonders if he will even survive the upcoming round. He grits his teeth and tries to motivate himself to survive out of spite so he can stick it to all those people who doubted him. A sudden siren alerts all the players and informs them that the next round is about to start, and will include hobgoblins as well. The second wave of monsters rushes in without a moment's notice while Min stands there farming aura, getting ready to rack up some free EXP. Our boy unpauses the goblin genocide and resumes swinging his deadly scythe, taking out a bunch of goblins like it's child's play. Soon after, the system notification informs our boy that he has reached level 20. His rank upgrades to regular, filling him with satisfaction now that he has unlocked crafting that allows him to combine skills and fuse all his trash to make some high-quality gear. Furthermore, the system rewards him with a new skill and upgrades his previous one, Seal of Death, which satisfies Min as his skill set pairs well with his runes. The brain-dead goblins try to attack our boy again but instantly get caught in total darkness as Min activates his newly acquired skill, Night of Death. Black Scythe flashes past the blind goblins with ease, sending them to permanent sleep one by one. The darkness melts everything in its path and leaves behind a mountain of monster bodies while the system notification pops up to announce that the second wave is over. Our protagonist drops his scythe with a thud and decides it is time to use the quest shop to grab a new skill. He scrolls through the store for a bit and eventually picks Sixth Sense, which lets him sense anything within 100 feet of him. Min activates the skill and only picks up the dead goblins around him, which reminds him that he still needs to gather another 20,000 gold. The third wave kicks off with Min slaying goblins like usual, while Black Dragon continues running around under Joe's mind control. After the third wave wraps up, the players find themselves facing gnolls in the fourth attack. Joe makes full use of his mind control powers and shamelessly uses his fellow humans as meat shields to save his own skin. After a long and brutal fight, the system notification dings again to signal the end of the fourth round. Joe barely stays standing with sweat pouring down his face as he wonders just how deep in a hole he has managed to dig himself. The gangster has already burned through all 10 charges of his power and convinces himself that he is safe for now as long as his brainwashed players stay alive. The system announces that the final wave is about to begin, and the players will have to take on almost 11,000 big boys, which makes them freeze up in pure shock. Fast forwarding into the madness, the players and monsters are busy stabbing each other while Joe desperately tries to take advantage of the walking bags of experience and finally snatch the #1 spot. His little delusional fantasy ends when he spins his head around and sees 2 of his henchmen get skewered. A few players who are still hungry for the representative spot charge at Joe, hell-bent on putting him out of commission. He panics and shoves 2 of the brainwashed players in front of him while shouting at them to do their job right and cursing the cowards for coming after him when the round is almost over. A few well-placed arrows take the zombies down, and the players move in with weapons raised, so he panics harder and decides to bail out of there to survive and fight another day. The players chase after him, refusing to let the thug slip away while Joe runs as fast as his legs will carry him. At one of the gates, Mr. Documentary spots our hero who catches his breath from the chaos. The gangster runs to him in a desperate move and begs to serve under him if it means getting protection. Min stays silent, and when Joe repeats himself, Min shoots him a death glare and refuses without a second thought. Joe's face turns pale as Min reminds him that rejecting his offer once means there is no next time, then walks away without hesitation. Joe tries to follow, not understanding the situation, but Min coldly says he has no use for someone who has already used all his commands. Joe curses himself for not accepting the offer when he had the chance, and knows there is no way out now. The players quickly notice he has no protection anymore, and Joe flinches in fear. Mr. Documentary watches with dread as the players roast him by saying his life will be a documentary from now on. Thinking all hope is lost, Joe braces himself as the players close in to end his misery, but a voice suddenly calls out to him. Min shows up offering support for his seniors. Joe feels surprised to see him there and lowers his guard for a moment, only for his junior to fold him with a brutal right uppercut. The blow sends Joe crashing to the ground like a sack of potatoes. Clutching his broken jaw in agony, he watches Min grin like a devil and warn him to say his prayers. The gangster tries to spit out an insult, but Min silences him with another punch. The junior pins him down and keeps pounding the life out of him with hit after hit. Mr. Documentary stares at his underling in horror, unable to speak through his shattered face as his miserable life flashes before his eyes. Min rises with a menacing aura and stomps on Joe, ending his subscription to life for good. He bursts into laughter as the system declares him the new zone leader and immediately starts dreaming about all the fun he plans to have with his celebrity crush. Looking down at the failure of a senpai, the thug thanks Joe for handing him new powers and blames him for this disaster, saying none of it would have happened if Joe had not been such a coward. After that, the new leader faces the crowd and acts like everything went exactly how he planned, which leaves the players completely mind-boggled. Everyone feels disgusted and shocked at the same time that a guy would stoop so low, sucking up to the gangster only to betray him at the very end. The players quickly grow angry that a backstabber like him will be their new leader and decide to get rid of him right away. Min expects this though and bolts straight toward our protagonist. As Min turns to look at him, Min excitedly shouts that he holds the command now. Min looks completely uninterested, so the thug repeats the same offer he once made to Joe and insists he will do whatever Min wants. Min has a big brain moment thinking that Min rejected Joe because he had already burned through his powers, but he believes that is not the case for him, so there should be no reason to turn him away. Our boy bluntly tells the thug that his face is ugly, and says he might spare his annoying butt if he gets down on his knees. The gangster stares in confusion, wondering why he is still being treated like trash, but Min calmly reminds the snake that he is the one who needs him. Our boy orders him to kneel again, which seriously ticks him off. But one glance at the angry mob ready to tear him apart makes him swallow his pride and drop down in an instant. The thug be Daddy Black Scythe to show mercy and save a weakling like him while Min watches, barely interested, since he remembers all the times he humiliated Min like this before. Still, he admits that even a steaming pile of trash like him might have some use. Black Scythe agrees to take him under his wing while Min spams the bow emote and thanks his master for showing mercy. Min tells the thug to knock it off and walks toward the crowd, standing right in front of his new lackey. The players immediately start sweating bullets, scared of going toe-to-toe with our hero. One of them suggests rushing him together but quickly takes it back when his friend reminds him about the Goblin Massacre. The players huddle up and start brainstorming ideas while Min throws one out himself, saying they can either be good little boys and scatter or stay and eat his blade. He advises them to take the first option since he might forget the difference between humans and monsters if they don't. The threat makes all the players flinch hard, and they retreat one by one, not willing to throw their lives away for nothing. The thug watches in awe at how powerful our hero's presence is, and feels relieved he switched teams, even if their start was rocky. Our boy looks around and figures out the 5th round is about to end peacefully since all the monsters are almost wiped out. Wanting to spice things up, Min flashes a cheeky grin and calls out to his new underling. Min stands at attention, ready for orders, and Min tells him to follow exactly what he says without a single word of complaint. Our boy casually announces that he uses all 10 of his commands and orders everyone to smash the large shiny stone. The brain-dead guy stupidly asks what the artifact even is before it hits him, that the angel warned them things would get really bad if anything happened to it. But the gangster worries more about why he has to use all 10 of his commands and demands an explanation. He begs Min to spare at least one, but our boy stands firm on his decision. Min agrees to follow his master's will while Min adds that he will choose the names himself. Black Scythe calls out the list of players, and Min does a double take as he spots a pattern. Most of the names belong to his own buddies, making him wonder if this is some kind of sick joke. His so-called friends ask if he really plans to go through with it, but the thug just throws out a fake apology and claims it is nothing personal. Min activates his mind control powers and orders the players to attack the artifact. This is when chaos breaks loose as the system warns all remaining players that their lifeline is now under threat. The zombies start hammering their weapons into the artifact while the survivors shout and plead for them to stop. They sprint toward the crystal, desperate to snap the victims out of it. When words fail, they turn to violence, but it is already too late as the giant crystal shatters into pieces. The crowd immediately spirals into panic when the system announces that their punishment for failing to protect the artifact has begun. A divine punisher will descend and rain hell down on them while they scramble around like mice for half an hour. Min stands still with an evil smile since the system has unlocked the hidden quest and put up a 3,000 gold reward for completing it. A hidden quest and a side quest suddenly appear, prompting the players to survive the deliverer of punishment for 30 minutes. Afterward, they will be rewarded with 3,000 gold, a better payout than the 2,000 gold they would have earned for protecting the artifact. Everyone celebrates, but Min, knowing better, realizes that destroying the artifact comes with its own cost. The stats of the players who attacked the artifact decrease by 50%, making them understandably furious with the map representative. At that moment, the artifact penalizes Min by permanently reducing his stats by 50%, which Min considers a death sentence. Our protagonist decides to open the store and buy some basic items with the remaining gold he has to boost his stats for the upcoming challenge of defeating the deliverer. He uses craft combinations, first combining a necklace with the purple crystal to increase all his stats by 1 point. Next, he combines his armor with the navy crystal to reduce incoming damage by 1 point, and then pairs his scythe with an orange crystal to enhance its power by 2 stat points, knowing he'll need every bit of help he can get. Suddenly, a whirring sound fills the air as everyone braces themselves, preparing to face the deliverer of divine punishment. It's a tough task, as Min already knows from his previous game where only 500 players survived. Surviving the deliverer is so difficult that it typically requires 5 level 40 players to take him down. But Min is determined to handle the challenge alone, aiming to claim the rewards for himself. As the sky splits open and golden light pours out, Min remains confident. He knows he can succeed because he holds the title of the first angel killer, which doubles his stats against any opponent of the Holy Order, including the Divine Punisher who now stands before them. The deliverer descends to the ground, and people initially underestimate him due to his size, thinking avoiding him will be a simple task. As the bells on his staff softly chime, the deliverer takes a few steps forward, raises his staff to the sky, and slams it down on the ground, instantly creating an expanding force field around him called the Restriction Field. The dome-like field spreads outward, trapping many players inside, and as soon as they're caught, their stats decrease by 50%. The hero estimates that at least 300 players are now trapped, doomed by their fate, as the deliverer begins his attack. With a majestic aura of blue light, millions of arrows of light shoot out from the deliverer's staff in all directions, annihilating everything and everyone in their path. The players try to flee, but they're unable to avoid the arrows while stuck in the restriction field, just as Min had predicted. He sees his opening, dashes behind the deliverer, and waits for the field to dissipate. Once it does, he charges forward without worrying about being heard, knowing the deliverer doesn't have ears. He closes the gap, gets within 16 feet of the level boss, and places a seal of death on him. But it's too late. The deliverer turns around, but Min's scythe pierces his eye and he quickly retreats to safety. The seal of death informs him that the deliverer is now down to 60% health after just one strike. As predicted, the deliverer activates his restriction field again to trap Black Scythe, but Min is nowhere near. The field lowers, and Min doesn't waste a second. He charges at the deliverer again, aiming for his other eye. The deliverer growls in agony and enables his field once more, trapping Min inside. But it doesn't faze him. He knows the boss isn't blind and has the accuracy of a stormtrooper. The deliverer tries to kill the hero by launching arrows in all directions, but it quickly becomes a futile effort once Min activates his Night of Death ability, which absorbs all the arrows. Since light can't escape darkness, the arrows are consumed without a trace. Black Scythe then takes a massive leap forward, swinging his scythe with deadly precision to finish the job. With a swift slash of his scythe, Min takes off one of the Deliverer's wings. The Deliverer tries to retaliate, but the protagonist dodges the attack and chops off the other wing, reducing the Deliverer's health to just 10%. However, instead of finishing the job right away, Min backs off when the Deliverer activates his ability, the Last Glorious Storm, which grants temporary invincibility. If Min had gone for the head, the Deliverer would have survived and fled, making it a gamble to finish the fight. During his invincibility, the Deliverer launches a desperate barrage of attacks, hoping to wipe out Black Scythe. Min, however, watches the spectacle with amusement from a distance. Once the invincibility fades, Min wastes no time. With a single clean swing, he sends the Deliverer's head flying. His level spikes, and he earns a substantial amount of gold from the achievement, becoming the first player to kill the Deliverer of Divine Punishment. In addition, he unlocks the title, The One Who Goes Against Divine Punishment, which reduces incoming damage by 80% when facing enemies from the Holy Order. He also gains a condensed ether and the Rune of the Glorious Storm. The ether can be used to craft divine-level items, while the rune enhances divine-level skill effects and boosts intelligence depending on the player's rank. For completing the side quest, every player is rewarded with 3,000 gold, leaving them relieved and happy. As they whisper among themselves, unease lingers over Black Scythe's overwhelming strength. Even the angel seems impressed and is eager to interview him. She asks him why he chose to kill the Deliverer of Divine Punishment when all he had to do was survive to be rewarded. He answers that he doesn't like seeing people die, surprising everyone as they realize the hero actually has a moral compass. The angel, puzzled, wonders how humans can so easily switch between killing and protecting one another, while the hero smirks, knowing the narcissistic angels wouldn't understand compassion. The angel then reminds the players that their lives still depend on their ranks and displays the results. Once again, our hero, Black Scythe, takes first place on both maps, having killed 3,600 monsters alone and reached level 30, all thanks to an experience buff. He receives a unique reward box and a mid-tier rare ring ticket for taking first place. For the ring ticket, he chooses the Ring of Resistance, knowing that, despite its seemingly weak description, it helps resist status effects that could kill a player. For the unique reward, he opts for gold, because he knows the next round won't be about killing monsters. The angel announces that the top 1,225 players will survive the round, sending the lower-ranking players into a panic as they scramble to negotiate their way out, but to no avail. Anyone ranked below the limit disappears forever, and the remaining players are returned to the real world. The scene shifts to Erin, who wakes up in her room, relieved not only that she survived the round, but also that she gained the profession of summoner, allowing her to summon fairies that cast shields for protection. It was the fairies' protection and Seong-cheol's distraction of the monsters that helped her not only survive, but also rank third on the local map. She receives a purple crystal for her third-place finish and wonders if Black Scythe would appreciate it as a gift. Meanwhile, at Youngmin's place, he throws a tantrum, breaking the table lamp and cursing the protagonist for permanently decreasing his stats. He regrets giving orders to his friends to break the artifact when suddenly his phone rings, and upon seeing the caller, he realizes he's done for. He picks up the phone, and Seung-hwan's voice instantly screams at him from the other side for using his command right and controlling his own friends. Youngmin tries to justify his actions, telling him that Black Scythe would have killed him if he didn't comply, but Seung-hwan simply retorts that he should have died instead of dragging his friends into death with him. Youngmin attempts to negotiate, mentioning how his stats were permanently halved, but Seung-hwan shouts back that it doesn't justify controlling his friends and that the problem wouldn't have happened if he hadn't gotten greedy and become the representative in the first place. Seung-hwan calls him a traitor. Before Youngmin can get another word in, Seung-hwan tells him not to ever talk to him again and never try to approach him in the other world, or he might kill him. Almost bursting with anger, Youngmin still calls himself the victim and tries to phone his other friends to help him kill Seung-hwan, but no one answers. In a fit of rage, he throws his phone on the bed, muttering that he doesn't need his friends because life is a one-man struggle. He clenches his teeth, seething with anger at Seung-hwan's death threat, and vows to kill him and everyone else if he ever gets the chance. The scene shifts to the hotel where manager Seong-cheol reports to Ma about the last round. Both of them remark that the round was a little difficult, but Seong-cheol points out that the monsters being weakened did make things a bit easier. Ma asks about his level and profession, and Seong-cheol replies that he's a level 11 knight, while Erin is at the same level and a summoner by profession. Ma seems surprised by this, and Seong-cheol explains that Erin summoned a fairy, which cast shields on them for protection, and allowed them to hunt monsters safely. Out of nowhere, Ma advises Seong-cheol to get close to Erin and even date her if he wishes, a suggestion that makes him uncomfortable. Ma explains that it will be easier to find out Erin's weaknesses by becoming close to her, and he finds Seong-cheol's dumbfounded expression amusing. He adds that Seong-cheol can reject the proposal if he wants to. Seong-chul responds by saying the actress wouldn't be interested in him, since she never speaks to him casually. Ma then cuts to the point and asks what else Seong-chul had to report. The manager apologizes for not being able to extend his thanks to Black Scythe or offer any help in any way. He explains how the hero defeated the deliverer of divine punishment almost instantly, as if he knew exactly what its weaknesses were, and that Black Scythe doesn't seem to need any help at all. Ma realizes that he's severely underestimated Black Scythe and feels ashamed of having thought himself superior just because of the rune of the Dark Knight. He now has a strong desire to meet the hero in person and excuses the manager for failing to carry out his task. After that, he asks if the manager has tracked down the thugs that assaulted them, to which the manager confirms. He tells Ma that the first person's name is Ryu Min, and while there are many people with that name across the country, they're left with 5 suspects if they assume the perpetrator lives in Seoul. The manager further explains that the exact location will be triangulated in about a month, which gives them time until the end of the 4th round. Moving on, Ma asks how much gold Seong-chul has saved, and the manager replies with 10,000. Ma tells him that it's only half the amount they need to buy the skill tracker in the game store. At that moment, the manager remembers something important and informs Ma that they have a stakeholder who bought a major share in their company, Chunma Consulting Group. Upon hearing that the person had bought 31% of the shares, Ma becomes speechless, realizing that this amounts to 280 million won. Ma wonders who could own so much money and starts considering the possibilities. He thinks it could either be a secret rich businessman or one of his brothers scheming against him, because logically, anyone who buys 1/3 of the shares must have done so to influence the company's decisions. Now worried, Ma asks his manager for the contact information of this investor. Meanwhile, back at the hero's apartment, Min lies in bed, waiting for a call from the company, when suddenly, one slams the door open and asks what his brother's level is. Apparently, kids have been bragging about their siblings having high levels at school and teasing him because a kid's brother has a level of 11 and a profession. Min assures him that his level is higher, but doesn't reveal his real level to conceal his identity. He tells Won that his level is 12 but decides to gatekeep his profession, calling it a secret, and shoos him away. Just then, the hero gets a call from Kyungrok Ma, the CEO of the company himself. Min decides to play it cool and reveal nothing of his true nature. He asks why he's been called, and Ma tells him that he wants to meet the biggest investor in his company in person over a meal. He asks if Friday works, but since the hero has a quest on that day, they settle on Saturday. As the hero had suspected, Ma's massive investment in the company was meant to impress his father and had gotten his attention. The hero starts making plans to acquire the Rune of Thoughts before his meeting with Ma. The hero remembers that there are various ways to acquire a rune, either by visiting specific locations in different rounds, completing quests, or defeating boss monsters. Occasionally, even normal monsters can drop them. However, it's extremely rare to find a rune in the real world, as it requires very specific conditions. He recalls this as he enters an abandoned warehouse and waits for someone named Sukyun Jang. Jang's nickname happens to be the same as his real name, something the hero remembers clearly. He was the criminal who kidnapped his brother in a previous regression, seeking critical information about future events. Jang knew the hero was a time traveler because he had obtained the Rune of Thoughts and could read both Min's and his brother's minds. Since that incident, Min has made it a point to take revenge on Jang in every subsequent regression. Although the hero claims not to hold a grudge against him anymore, he still heads to the warehouse, intending to acquire the Rune of Thoughts before Jang does. To conceal his identity, he puts on a mask. Suddenly the door slams open, and Jang walks in, carrying a lady over his shoulder. Without hesitation, he throws her onto the ground, mercilessly ripping the tape from her mouth. He warns her not to scream, but as soon as her mouth is free, she immediately yells for help. The thug is visibly irritated and tells her not to waste her time with typical pleas like asking for mercy, claiming she has a kid, or negotiating money for freedom. However, the woman surprises him by asking for forgiveness, which leaves him momentarily confused. Jang frowns and asks why she's apologizing, and she nervously explains that the previous night she had stared at him, which made him angry. The thug, being the jerk that he is, scoffs and demands to know why she did something she now regrets. He tells her it ruined his mood. The thug then recalls the events from 2 days ago. He had been wandering the streets looking for a victim when he spotted a woman he found attractive. Quietly, he followed her from a distance, waiting for the right moment. When she entered an alleyway and was alone, he seized the opportunity, jumping in front of her and activating an ability that made his body glow like a solar flare, reminiscent of something from Dragon Ball. The woman, temporarily blinded by the intense light, couldn't see anything, leaving her vulnerable. The thug savored the power he had over her, thrilled by the fact that he could do whatever he wanted and get away with it. He couldn't help but reflect on how worthless his life used to be, with nothing interesting to fill his days. But after acquiring the Rune of Radiance, he could temporarily blind others, giving him control to exploit them as he pleased. In another incident, the thug walks into a coffee shop, his eyes immediately locking onto the pretty barista behind the counter. He orders an iced Americano, and she tells him it will be 5,000 won. After paying, he casually asks where the usual part-time worker is, explaining that he's a regular customer. She responds that all the part-timers have quit because of the dangerous nature of the world now, with the constant risk of dying during any game round. Curious, he asks if she's the boss, and she confirms. Then, without missing a beat, he asks her age, commenting that she looks young. She tells him she's 32, which he dismisses as a good thing because she's not a player. However, in reality, he's aware that she's vulnerable due to the lack of abilities. Then, without any hesitation, he asks for her number, bluntly admitting that he likes her. This catches her off guard, and she stands there awkwardly, unsure how to respond. The thug, misreading the situation entirely, interprets her silence as an insult. He accuses her of thinking he's ugly, and uses this as an excuse to demand a refund. He snatches his money back and storms out of the shop, grinding his teeth in frustration. As he leaves, he mutters to himself about how it's always the pretty people who judge others, unaware of how perverted his approach had been. Determined to get his revenge, he decides to ambush her later, planning to catch her off guard in an alleyway. In the warehouse, the woman pleads for forgiveness, vowing never to judge anyone again, but the thug remains unsatisfied with her answer. Zhang shoves her back onto the floor and grabs her wrists, telling her she doesn't sound sincere, so she'll have to face the consequences. She fights to break free, but he tells her to stay still while he continues his attempt to humiliate her. Suddenly, the hero shouts from behind, ordering the thug to stop, which sends a wave of fear through Zhang. Thinking it's a detective, Zhang demands to know who's there, only to be shocked by the sight of a figure standing tall with a massive scythe in hand, his face hidden behind a white mask. The hero calls him an idiot and tells the woman to run while she still can. Zhang attempts to threaten her, but the protagonist is faster, lunging forward and slamming the handle of his scythe into the thug's groin, instantly paralyzing him with excruciating pain. Min tells the woman to leave, and once she's gone, he turns to the thug and coldly states that the real game has just begun. The thug starts cursing at Min and tries putting on a tough act, but the hero just finds the whole thing amusing. He comes at the masked hero with repeated dagger thrusts, trying to land a hit, but Min easily dodges every single attempt without breaking a sweat. Clearly unimpressed, Min mocks him for still clinging to a goblin's dagger and without hesitation, slices his hand clean off. The thug flinches and shakes in pain, but Min leans in and casually asks if it hurts, letting him know this is only the beginning. When the hero swiftly takes care of his other arm, Zhang finally understands that death is coming for him. Desperate to survive, he tries to use his radiance ability to blind the masked hero and make a run for it, but to his shock, it doesn't do a thing. Turns out Min had already activated his Night of Death ability in advance, snuffing out every trace of light in the area before the thug even realized what was coming. Without wasting a second, he swoops in through the darkness and takes out both of the thug's ankles with one clean slash, forcing another loud cry of pain as the thug curses and collapses, then demands to know why the masked hero is putting him through all this. Min doesn't bother with a long answer, and instead drives his blade into the side of the thug's thigh, casually throwing back a rhetorical question about why people use pesticides in the first place. Without giving him time to think, Min sinks the blade into his other thigh and calmly explains that pests like him tend to cause problems when they're left alone, then follows it up by hacking at him from both sides in a brutal series of slashes, clearly aiming to break whatever spirit the thug has left. Barely able to speak, the thug starts questioning why he's being treated so cruelly, and wonders aloud if the masked protagonist is holding some kind of grudge against him. The pain keeps building until it's too much for him to take, and in a desperate move, he tries to end it all by biting off his own tongue. Min catches on quickly and shuts that down right away, letting him know there's no chance he's dying easily, then continues stabbing him with even more force, making it clear the punishment is far from over. Zhang begs the hero to just end his life, but Min only scoffs at the request and asks if he even understands why he's being tortured like this. And when Zhang admits he doesn't, Min tells him they've crossed paths before and even calls him out by name. That's when Zhang starts assuming the protagonist must be related to the woman, but Min immediately shuts that down without hesitation. Min then begins to explain that Yang had once kidnapped his younger brother in return for some vital piece of information, though Zhang tries to deny any involvement. Before he can even finish, the masked protagonist cuts him off and clarifies that the event hadn't happened yet, that it takes place in the future, and Zhang would have successfully gotten the Rune of Thoughts if Min hadn't stepped in when he did. Still lost in confusion, the thug struggles to process what's happening, but Min doesn't stop and tells him that the rune can only be activated by hearing the voice of honesty from another person. So if Zhang had gone through with violating the woman, her cries and genuine pleas for mercy would have fulfilled the condition, allowing him to gain the Rune of Thoughts and go on to commit even more vile acts using its power. Min adds that he confirmed everything across his many regressions and says the thug fully deserves to die after racking up 12 offenses, each worse than the last. Hearing this, The thug begs once more to be killed, but the hero refuses and instead jams the handle of his scythe straight into Jang's mouth to shut him up, then calmly explains that he had been stalling on purpose, waiting for him to die naturally while he rambled on. Now gagged and unable to speak, Jang desperately wishes in his mind for Min to kill him, just to put an end to the unbearable pain, and he starts to wonder why the hero is even gagging him when the Rune of Thoughts requires genuine honesty from someone to activate. If that's the case, then what's the point of keeping him silent? But Min casually responds to the thought, revealing that the rune already activated the moment Yang pleaded for death from the bottom of his heart. It's revealed that the Rune of Thoughts only works within a 30-meter range, allowing the user to hear the target's truest inner voice. Min tells Jang he mainly wanted to test if the rune actually worked, and now that it has, he's satisfied. But when Jang pleads for death yet again, the hero denies the request once more, saying it's only fair that someone who's hurt so many people should get a taste of what real suffering feels like. Eventually, the thug breathes his last, and our hero calmly activates an ability known as Trace Erase, wiping out every shred of forensic evidence from the scene, including the corpse itself. Min takes a moment to admire how thorough the cleanup really is and feels pretty satisfied knowing he's finally secured the Rune of Thoughts. So now he sets his sights on meeting Kyungrak Ma the following day. Back at the apartment, our boy gets all suited up while his brother teases him and asks who the lucky girl is. One keeps poking at him, but Min explains he has a serious business meeting to attend. That makes Wan's anxiety spike since he starts thinking about what if the business fails and they end up homeless again. Our hero gives his innocent brother a warm smile once he sees that it all comes from worry. Min flashes a confident grin and promises to spill all the juicy details if things go well. He asks if his brother doubts his skills, which gets Wan a little riled up, but Min cools him down and tells him to be a good boy and stay inside. One gets chills as he remembers the messed up players abusing power in real life, and that some thugs even broke out of prison. Our protagonist confirms his suspicion that the system does not care whether players are criminals or not. He figures it makes no sense for things to stay normal forever, and recalls how in past lives the players tried to enslave regular humans and take over the world. Black Scythe makes up his mind not to let history repeat itself, and decides to lock in. Before heading out, Min tells his sweet brother to stay safe, but one seems more interested in this shady business deal. Our hero tells him to wait for the right time and scolds him to eat a real meal instead of store-bought junk again. Later, our hero stands before a huge hotel, not surprised that the CEO picked this place. The building belongs to Kyungrak Ma, but that remains a well-kept secret only family members would know. Our boy walks up to the front desk, ready to use this hidden info to his advantage, and for that he needs to play dumb and act like a supreme love-struck fool. Right after that, he throws on the whole act of a low IQ rich kid living off daddy's credit card and awkwardly asks about his meeting. The receptionist confirms everything and leads him to the lounge while saying the CEO will join him soon. Min keeps up the clueless act and gazes at the ceiling with his mouth wide open like he's just seen magic. When a voice suddenly speaks up, he stands and gets hit with surprise seeing Seongchul show up instead of the actual boss. Both of them freeze for a second and Seongchul clearly recognizes the familiar face right away. Min coolly plays it off and claims he's just the neighbor from their apartment, which makes the bodyguard bow real quick and apologize for being rude earlier, though the man still struggles to believe someone this young holds that kind of money. Feeling like things might get too real now, Min slides right back into his dumb act, and even calls the bodyguard the CEO to sell it harder. On the other hand, Seongchul clears up the confusion and explains he's just standing in as the manager for now. He points toward a nearby room and tells our guy to hang out there for a bit. The second he walks off, he starts texting the boss like it's urgent and warns that their new shareholder might be hiding something sketchy. The bodyguard starts to worry that Ryu Min has a huge secret or worse, that he's just a puppet for someone way more dangerous. Meanwhile, our boy flashes a smug little smirk since he already figures Ma would try to pull some cheap trick like this because there's no way a man as successful as him shows up late to such an important meeting. The door finally swings open and the real CEO steps in to greet him, with his loyal manager trailing close behind like a shadow. After they finish shaking hands and settle in their seats, Ma pulls a subtle power move by letting his manager stay in the room, clearly hoping it helps tilt the power game in his favor. He gives the staff a nod to start bringing out the food and mentions that he hopes Min likes what they've prepared. The whole table ends up filled with super fancy dishes, and our boy instantly starts munching down while still sticking to his airhead rich boy routine. Ma politely smiles at the compliments, but Loki admits to his manager that there's something off about this guy. Later, the boss becomes pretty convinced that Min got sent by someone trying to mess with their plans and starts listing possible suspects in his head. He then shoots a side glance at Min and casually throws out a question about his age. When our guy responds with a straight 20, Ma's eyes pop open in disbelief and he tries to laugh it off with a joke about them being the same age. That's when the guy decides to stop beating around the bush and straight up asks how Min even got so filthy rich. Our protagonist keeps it chill and says he was just your average student not too long ago. Ma doesn't really pick up the hint, so Min casually brings up a recent headline and checks if he remembers that lottery winner before dropping the bomb by reintroducing himself. Ma nearly flips but holds it together as he starts putting the pieces together and asks how Min turned that 60 billion prize into more. Right then, Min calmly flexes that he dumped it all into Bitcoins, and Ma admits there's no way he'd ever take a risk that wild. Songchul throws out a random guess that Min must have some cracked luck stat, but our boy says that's not it either. After that, the bodyguard recalls hearing something on the news about Min dreaming up the winning numbers, but our boy shoots that down too and finally drops the real tea. Even though it makes him nervous to admit it, he reveals he owns a special rune that lets him peek at future events, which basically makes him a walking prophet. Hearing such a bold claim leaves the two men frozen in disbelief as they seriously start wondering if Min is missing a few screws upstairs. The CEO asks if that's really true, and our boy says that he's got no reason to lie, though Ma remains skeptical and politely asks him to prove it by revealing what's going to happen next. Our boy could easily spill the answer but plays it safe and holds back, then tells them his prophecy power acts on its own and doesn't work when he wants. That actually clicks with Ma, since the ability sounds way too overpowered to be that flexible. But then something suddenly clicks in his head and he questions why Min bought so many shares. That's when Min casually says it's because his business is about to go to the moon real soon. The mention of his company hitting it big gets Ma fired up and breaks his calm for a second, as he thinks this might finally be his chance to make his daddy proud. He quickly regains control and scolds himself for slipping like that. But Min doesn't let up and playfully adds that if they really want to succeed, they'll have to tear the whole company down and rebuild it from scratch. Seong-chol flares up at that insane suggestion and slams his hand on the table, but Ma manages to keep him in check. Our protagonist stays firm on his stance and fires back that revealing his rune powers to them is a huge risk that could totally backfire, but he did it because he holds the most shares and actually wants to see the company reach greater heights. He turns the tables by asking why anyone sane would dump $280 billion into a random business and reminds them that without him, they're going down. Neither of the two men buys into his wild claim, but Min boldly asks Seong-chol if he really thinks it's a coincidence they're apartment neighbors. Ma's curiosity kicks in and he asks what they're talking about, so the bodyguard explains that the brothers moved into the same building 2 months back, and Min adds that he did it right after getting the foresight rune. That piece of info ticks the CEO off and he demands to know why it's only coming up now, but Seong-chol quickly says that this is news to him too. After thinking it through, Ma realizes that the investments and apartment move only make sense if Min really knows what's coming, though it's hard to believe he also knows about his connection to the actress. But even with all that, it's still not enough to sway a sharp mind like Ma's, so Min starts rambling about his family background and how this hotel is part of his plan to finally earn his daddy's approval. That's when the bodyguard jumps to his feet in frustration and yells, demanding to know who sent him, but the boss stays cool and tells him to zip it. That instantly shuts Seong-chol up, and he takes a breath before telling Min that even if all his info checks out, it still doesn't prove anything since those facts are common knowledge in their family. With that, he also starts to suspect that Min might just be a puppet, but plays along and says that even if he did agree to flip his whole industry, pulling it off would be next to impossible. Sure, like any regular person, he would love to see his company thrive, but our boy's offer just feels way too good to be real. So he politely thanks our protagonist for his generous investment, but suggests they take this topic up again during the upcoming shareholder meeting. Ma stands up and tries to wrap things up, but our boy tells him to slow down and really think about whether what he's about to do is the right move. Taking a gamble, he chooses to spill a bit of info on the next round. Ma immediately perks up and sinks back into his seat, fired up by what he just heard. Min flashes a grin and asks if that piece of knowledge is enough to convince the two of them that his magic powers are the real deal. After the meeting wraps up, Seong-chol apologizes for losing his cool earlier, but Ma waves it off like it's nothing serious. The bodyguard asks for permission to speak openly and admits that something about Min still feels off since there's no solid reason for him to be helping them out. Ma figures he might be doing it just because he wants even more money. Seong-chol shakes his head, still not buying that it's just about greed, and says placing trust in him is way too risky. Even so, Ma doesn't want to miss out if Min is actually being truthful and figures it might be smarter to have him as an ally, since keeping someone like that close might just be their ticket to surviving the quests. He tells his still worried right-hand man that they'll just have to wait and find out. Later, Min walks off while thinking there's no way they won't believe him once they witness the 4th round, even though he didn't share any of the exciting details and only mentioned that the round will pit players against each other. He's fully confident that when it's over, they'll treat him like some kind of saint and wouldn't even think about making an enemy out of a prophet. With that handled, he figures it's time to take full advantage of his new image and go meet a certain someone. Meanwhile, a girl rushes toward the crosswalk, growing impatient as she waits for the light to change, but her attention shifts to a flashy sports car parked right in front of the store. Juri stops herself mid-insult when the window rolls down and she realizes the driver is none other than Min. As the light turns green, she hurries over and asks if that car actually belongs to him. After their totally not coincidental encounter, our protagonist offers to take her for a spin, and she shamelessly agrees without hesitation. He lets her know that it's his first time behind the wheel and he's just testing it out. Curious, Juri asks about the price, and our boy casually drops that it costs around 900 million, like it was loose change. Her eyes go wide in disbelief since with that kind of money, she could have opened more than a few shops. Our boy reminds her that he hit the lottery, so the price didn't make much of a dent, which hits Juri hard as the difference in their lives becomes painfully clear. She starts to feel flustered because the whole situation now feels way too much like a date, and when Min says he has something to confess, her heart practically jumps out of her chest. Thankfully, our protagonist quickly adds that it's not that kind of confession, or else Juri might have launched herself right out the window. Once she calms down, Juri asks what Min means, and our boy admits that he didn't actually see the lottery numbers in a dream and lied to her about it. He reveals that he got them through his foresight rune, which is also how he ended up with the fake title of the Prophet. Juri is thrilled for him and congratulates our boy on acquiring such an insane skill. She's touched that he trusts her enough to tell her the truth, but Min reminds her that she already told him about her own powers. Juri lights up and starts talking excitedly about her rune, explaining how her defense increases based on the number of nearby players. She feels lighter now that she's finally told someone, but wonders why Min brought this up all of a sudden. He tells her that it's been eating away at him for a while and he wasn't sure anyone would take him seriously. After he fills her in on what's coming in the 4th round, Juri gasps in shock, struggling to process the terrifying news. With a dead serious tone, our protagonist warns her not to trust anyone once the round begins. Juri is touched that her handsome classmate cares this much, and feels special being the first girl he's shared this secret with. As she sneaks a glance at him, her mind starts racing with thoughts, and she wonders if he might actually have feelings for her too. Back at his apartment, Min scrolls through his phone and is stunned to learn that Juri has a crush on him. He figures he can use this newfound knowledge to his benefit, since it'll now be easier to recruit her to his side. With everything finally in order, Min calls it a day, satisfied that all of this month's problems are off his chest. Before he knows it, March 31st arrives, and our boy quickly thinks ahead and makes sure to visit the store before the next transfer. He grabs a pair of dark shadow gloves that come with a useful invisibility perk, and also go well with his other skills. A knock on the door pulls his attention as his brother shows up to remind him it's almost time for the quest. One feels worried for his brother, but Min tells him to wait and see. He brings up Min's prophecy powers and insists that he come back alive. Min jokingly tells his brother to mind his words as he falls asleep. All players get transported into the alternate world, and Min clutches his head in frustration. He opens up his quest window and sees the penalty still active. He curses himself for betraying Joe and wonders how he'll manage in the 4th round when greedy players might target him again. He scans the area with unease and starts questioning what kind of strange place this is, since it gives him the feeling of being a lab rat. In the crowd, he catches sight of Black Scythe and instantly curses him for his current situation, feeling sure the guy saw this coming. He finds it weird how easily he killed the divine being, and stays angry for being too weak to smash Min's face in. Still, what matters more right now is figuring out how he'll survive, so he calls out to our protagonist for help. The thug checks with our guy to see if their deal is still good, asking if he still gets protection, but Min casually brushes him off and says he doesn't need a henchman like that anymore. Black Scythe fires back that he doesn't have command rights anymore, and besides, everyone has a class now anyway. Min begins sweating as our hero tells him he's just a ticking time bomb and not useful anymore. Min keeps turning his head in fear while our hero tells him to relax. The thug looks confused, but our boy reminds him that the role isn't all that special anymore. These days, almost everyone has a profession, and there's no bonus for targeting the representative. It finally clicks for the gangster, and Min's words start to make sense, but his train of thought gets cut off as his face turns red upon spotting a certain duo walking toward them. Aaron walks up to Min and greets him, while the bodyguard checks if our hero remembers them, prompting Min to ask what they're doing here. Songchul thanks him again for saving them from the brute, but Min takes offense and steps up, ready to throw hands. Min holds him back with a hand and tells the pair that helping once was enough. The bodyguard tries again, offering a reward and wanting to introduce his CEO, but Black Scythe waves it off without interest. Left with no better option, Aaron quickly presents a purple crystal and pleads with our hero to accept it. Min eyes the high-quality crystal with surprise, and the actress explains that giving this to him feels better than offering another round of apologies. He accepts her thoughtful gift and decides he'll craft something useful with it once he's back. Aaron glances at him nervously, unsure if he likes it or not, while Min effortlessly reads her thoughts, knowing full well she has no clue how valuable the crystal really is. Right after that, our hero picks up on Min's thoughts too, realizing the guy also has a magic crystal, and gets stunned that he somehow found a reinforced black crystal so early. It's a super rare find, and the gangster just gave away that he owns one. Arin tries to follow up and offers to protect our boy, excitedly talking about her class and how she can summon fairies, but Min politely turns her down since he doesn't need any help. Although this makes Arin a little sad, both sides say their goodbyes, but our hero stops the gangster just as he tries to leave. He gaslights Youngmin into rethinking his decision, pointing out that even if his role is now useless, he can still end up being a target. He convinces the thug that although most people have a class, the power still works on a few select players. Youngmin doesn't sound convinced, but our hero simply throws out the question that there really isn't a single person who'd come after him right now. The scumbag takes the bait and gets nervous, but Min assures him that he'll help out, which makes him feel slightly better, though the favor won't come free. Our boy then tells him to hand over whatever stones he has, and the thug gladly complies. He tries pushing for more, but the gangster only has his dignity left, which Min kindly spares as he agrees to protect him moving forward. A golden light cuts across the sky as the angel returns, and casually remarks that the number of players has dropped once again. The crowd starts speculating whether fights are breaking out in real life too, though Min thinks it would actually be strange if they weren't. The angel then reveals the quest for the 4th round. The players will have to kill each other during the next 3 hours. The golden woman lets out a loud, ugly cackle and tells everyone to follow the simple instructions and start stabbing one another. Everyone looks horrified by her words, but she stands firm, explaining that the goal is to lower the player count themselves since there are no monsters this time. All the players are thrown off, and one of them finally dares to ask if they only need to unalive one person each. She casually tells them it'll be more fun if they figure it out on their own, but Min already knows the real reason. She's been told to keep quiet since the angels only act as guides, and the one truly making the calls is the host. Still, she gives them one small tip, saying that simply unaliving another player doesn't guarantee staying on top, and that the ranking system will stay hidden. The woman also mentions that the rules aren't tied to time limits, and with that, she wishes them good luck with their little round of stabby-stabby. As the timer appears above them, all the players begin to panic, wondering if it's time to start whacking one another. The gangster immediately starts drooling over who to eliminate first, which is exactly the kind of reaction Min expected from him. This whole situation turns out great for young Min since all the players seem too scared to start fighting, and he quickly decides it's the perfect time to get revenge on the people he once called friends. Black Scythe suddenly shadow steps behind him, scaring the absolute daylight out of him. He nervously asks if our hero needs something, and Min remembers the promise he made as he pulls out his scythe and unexpectedly swings it straight at him. Youngmin's head separates cleanly from his body as the system congratulates our hero for completing the side quest and rewards him with something special. One of the players lets out a scream while another immediately snitches on Black Scythe, even though they were all ready to unalive each other just moments ago. Not long after, the rest of the players pile on and start yelling at Min, calling him inhumane and labeling him a murderer. Min doesn't bother calling them out, since he really has unalived a good number of people, though never without a solid reason, and besides, this whole round is literally about killing. Even so, all the players act like they're morally above it, but deep down, most of them just want to strip Black Scythe of his power. Their fake outrage makes our hero crack a grin, which only makes them more furious as they start thinking he might actually be insane. Right then, the system breaks through their complaining and announces Min as the new zone representative, causing the players to fall quiet. Black Scythe wastes no time and mocks their sudden silence, asking if they've turned into chickens while calling out the scared ones who still don't have any classes. One of the players quickly spots something and points out that Min's name has turned a different color. All of them begin whispering about the new red color while our hero remembers from his past lives that unaliving a player causes the shift, and it continues to change depending on how many kills stack up. Because the color stands out so much, other players will try to take down the killer, but end up becoming killers themselves. The cycle keeps going until the whole battlefield turns into a bloodbath. Their hesitation now is exactly what will lead to even more deaths later on. Min teases them to quit wasting time, but the players clearly aren't having any of it. Our boy then calls them out for being hypocrites, since they were already planning to go after the leader in the last round, and he reminds them that they can either throw hands or get folded. He questions the crowd on what they'll do when the time comes to unalive someone just to survive, and tells them to make up their minds quickly and start moving. Our hero suggests they go ahead and hold another discussion like before as he walks away, thinking to himself that people will end up fighting anyway, though by then it'll already be too late. He worries that they'll keep whining and wasting time, which would mean fewer players will manage to finish the quest, leading to even more eliminations. One girl decides to bring the matter up for debate, but another player gets rude with her and that only ends with her getting pissed off. One NPC proposes they organize competitions between the players, but another quickly shoots it down, saying there isn't enough time to make that work. As the crowd gets more riled up, Aaron grows worried about what they should do next, and starts wondering whether they should go along with Black Scythe's plan. Sungchul agrees completely with our hero, and advises the actress that her own life matters far more than a stranger's. With that in mind, he tells Erin to brace herself for the worst, which makes her suspicious that the bodyguard might have gone through something like this before. Songchul instantly changes the topic, and the actress asks him who they should target, though in the end, the two of them decide to wait it out until the very end. The tension in the crowd keeps building as nobody can agree on who to unalive, and some players begin to seriously consider rushing Black Scythe. The other players try to talk some sense into each other, not realizing that our hero can hear them anyway, and they quickly look away when our boy turns to glance in their direction. Arguments keep building as the frustration grows among the group. Some players insist they need to kill to survive, while others argue that only the murderers should be targeted. One bratty NPC mocks a player's idea, which sparks a heated confrontation. The two of them start shouting at each other until another NPC joins in just to taunt them, telling them to quit flirting and start fighting already. That backfires fast as the arguing pair turn their focus to the instigator, and suddenly, all three of them pull out their weapons. Min just shakes his head in disappointment, thinking everyone here is just full of bark with no real bite. Amid the chaos, one player finally notices something weird when Young Min suddenly sits up, looking strangely unaffected by the whole missing head situation. The players all stop arguing and stare at the gangster like he's just come back from the dead, but Black Scythe already knows the system is designed to bring back the dead 10 minutes after they're taken out. Young Min looks around in confusion, wondering why everyone's staring at him like he's some kind of science experiment, and how he even ended up in that spot. The revelation throws the crowd into even more chaos as they realize the system actually revives players after death. Now that the truth is out, the players start grabbing their weapons and slowly warming up to the idea of unaliving each other. One player with a bit of sense tries to calm them down and explains that nobody knows exactly how this revival system works yet, but it's already too late. As another player silently walks up behind her and strikes her down without hesitation, the attacker shouts for her to die as he drives his Wolverine claws into her from behind, then demands that she revive. The crowd watches in stunned silence, horrified by what they've just witnessed. Anxiety begins to spread when the woman doesn't revive right away, but someone in the crowd recalls how Young Min had revived after 10 minutes, so they decide to wait and see what happens next. After 10 minutes, the woman's injuries begin to heal, and she wakes up as if from a nap. But as soon as she realizes what's happened, she screams, demanding to know who attacked her. The killer attempts to strike again from behind, but before he can land the blow, someone twice his size swings a battle axe, taking him down with a powerful strike and rejoicing in the fact that revival is possible. The crowd falls into an uneasy silence, unsure of what to make of the situation. Black Scythe understands that while revival is possible, murder is still seen as unforgivable by most, but he also expects that some psychopaths will inevitably reveal their true nature under these circumstances. Chaos erupts when some players begin attacking others, and what started as small skirmishes quickly escalates into a full-fledged battlefield. 1,000 players start unleashing havoc on one another. Black Scythe decides to dive into the war zone, starting by sweeping through 3 unsuspecting players before they even realize what's happening. Some players, seeing him on the move, decide to take him on all at once, but they are quickly dispatched with a single strike. The protagonist glances over his shoulder and notices Blackbeard Dragon, the player who ranked 3rd in the previous rounds, enjoying the carnage. He comments that the rune of absorption is giving him an advantage in this round. Black Scythe looks at his name, now dark red, and estimates he's already killed at least 10 players. Deciding to enjoy himself a little more, he plans to put Blackbeard Dragon down a few times. Blackbeard Dragon summons his stats screen, eagerly watching his gauge increase for the rune of absorption. With each kill, the gauge fills, and he can feel the excitement building as he realizes that once it's full, he'll gain a stat point. He takes down another player, and the gauge bars rise sharply, making him wonder if the player he just killed was at the same level as him. His greed takes hold, and he daydreams about killing Black Scythe to fill his gauge instantly and secure that stat upgrade. But as quickly as the thought forms, he realizes he's no match for the hero, and decides it's better to stick to killing weaker opponents. With sadistic glee, Blackbeard Dragon continues to kill a few more players, savoring the fear in their eyes. He recalls how, in the previous round, he couldn't hunt because the gang leader had used his command right to make him his personal bodyguard. This round, however, feels like it's tailor-made for him, as he can level up by killing others while the majority of players are stuck in the same place, unable to level up as he can. He's thrilled to see his victims revive, only to be killed again, and wonders if he should expand his hunting grounds to cover more area. Just then, though, he finds himself face-to-face with Black Scythe, who immediately activates his Night of Death ability. The scene turns dark, catching everyone off guard, and Blackbeard Dragon notices that the hero's scythe has turned semi-transparent. Understanding that he needs to be careful, he braces himself, but before his body can even process the shift, everything flips upside down, and he's dead before he can even react. The scene shifts to Young Min, who watches the slaughter around him, the killing and reviving, and realizes exactly what this round is about. With a determined look in his eyes, he plans to get revenge on the friends who had abandoned him. His eyes scan the battlefield, searching for Xunhuan, and after a brief moment he spots him, taking aim at other players. Without hesitation, Ryu Min charges towards him and greets him with a punch to the face that sends Xunhuan flying across the battlefield. Ryu Min approaches, his eyes cold, and grabs Xunhuan by the collar, daring him to kill him if he's so bold. Then, without waiting for a response, he starts pounding Xunhuan with a brutal barrage of punches, each one landing harder than the last, until he finally ends the fight, leaving Xunhuan lying motionless on the ground. After brutally murdering his friend with his bare hands, Ryu Min stands over the lifeless body. He scans the battlefield, searching for his other two friends. They're out there somewhere, and he won't stop until they face the consequences of their abandonment. Aaron is lost in deep thought, contemplating that if hell were real, it would look exactly like the battlefield around her, a place where all anyone desires is to kill and destroy. Xiongchul notices her distress and calls out her name, asking if she's okay. She responds by sharing the mental turmoil she's feeling. Xiongchul realizes that if Aaron loses her grip on her sanity, it could harm her career, and he would fail in his responsibility to CEO Ma of keeping her safe. At that moment, a player sneaks up behind Aaron, grabs her hair, and pulls out a dagger to end her. Xiongchul reacts instantly, intercepting the dagger with his sword and sending it flying. He then shifts his grip and plunges the sword into the attacker's shoulder, forcing him to surrender. Xiongchul tells Aaron to finish the job, and though she trembles and sobs for a moment, she quickly pulls herself together and kills the player. Afterward, she's clearly disturbed, while Xiongchul remains calm, just relieved that she followed through with his orders. Aaron, visibly shaken, asks how much longer they have to endure the round, and Xiongchul replies that they have 1 hour left. She expresses her confusion and distress over why people are so eager to kill each other, which causes Xiongchul to pity her for her soft-hearted nature. He asks if she's killed at least 50 people, and when she affirms it, he's relieved, knowing she'll be registered on the scoring system. He tells her to leave the rest to him. Aaron thanks him, but in his mind, Xiongchul thanks her for giving him time to set a record. Time passes, and the screen shows that only 10 minutes remain until the round ends. Black Scythe is seen mowing down players left and right, determined to rank first on the world map again so he can reach the 20th round. His goal is to grow as strong as possible before facing the final boss, unsure of what kind of strength they possess. He chases a group of players, and just as one of them thinks it's over, the hero skips right over him. Black Scythe knows that killing a player more than once doesn't earn extra points, so he sees no reason to keep going after the same person. He notices Ryu Min, who doesn't know about this hidden rule, relentlessly killing his 3 friends over and over, only reducing both their chances of survival and his own. With just 1 minute left, the hero searches desperately for players he hasn't killed yet, but is finding it difficult. He finally spots 2 unfamiliar players and attempts to take them both down at once, but the time runs out. A force field surrounds all the players, and the angel appears, announcing the end of the round, seeming rather amused. She comments on how the players must have enjoyed killing each other, making the white floor all dirty with blood. The angel tells them she'll revive the dead players now that the round is over, which the protagonist knows is a lie, as the system revives players automatically. The dead players rise and are encased in force fields, but Ryu Min's friends don't look too pleased and begin yelling at him for the brutal beatdown he gave them. The angel overhears the commotion and warns them to stay quiet, or she'll make their heads explode. They quickly go silent as she proceeds to display the results. The angel begins by revealing the side quest, catching the players off guard. The quest was to kill the map representative within the countdown. She informs them that only 1 player managed to complete the quest, and that player was Black Scythe. The other players murmur among themselves, while Blackbeard Dragon grits his teeth, realizing he missed the opportunity. Ryu Min, struggling to recall what had happened, checks his stats for the command ability but finds it's not there. He feels betrayed by the protagonist, who had promised to help him stay alive. Once the side quest is announced, the angel reveals another key detail. Killing the most diverse people earned more points, meaning that repeatedly killing the same individuals was a pointless effort. The rankings are then displayed, and Black Scythe emerges at the top of both the world map and local map once again, with 722 kills, much to the angel's delight. The players are stunned by the sheer number of people Black Scythe has killed, almost as if it were a massacre. The angel proceeds to grant him his rewards, a mid-tier rare armor ticket and a unique reward box. For the armor, he selects the blood-stained assassin's suit, and for the unique reward, he picks the 50% buff on stats for the next round. The angel then announces that anyone ranked below 521 will disappear, prompting the players to beg and plead for mercy, but it's all in vain. Ryu Min manages to survive the round, and Aaron seems deeply distressed by the disappearance of so many people. The hero closes his eyes in a moment of silence before being transported back into the real world.